No, you should not take that gambling company brand deal, but you're unlikely to listen to me right away, so let me throw a couple of things at you. I feel like we've all seen this show, we loved it the first season, and really enjoyed it. People dressed up for Halloween that year in the characters from this show, but people kind of forgot about the fact that the entire premise of the show is the fact that you have a bunch of people down on their luck who have pretty much a crippling gambling addiction. And this is how they end up in this world, right? The whole premise, the entire story, how you get into the Squid Games, how you get elected is that you're just a gambling addict. And this is an important factor because for you as a creator, sometimes it's not only about the money or the brand that you're about to represent, it's about the kind of culture you're going to represent. And a few things that you need to be aware of, right? We have an increased percentage of people, at least in the United States right now, gambling. And for a lot of countries, that's been a persistent problem for years, including South Korea, right? Hence Squid Games. But also, if you start looking back at the impact that the gambling has, right? From the perspective of third, not being able to pay down their debts and not being able to kind of like meet their normal payment obligations, seeing the increase in payday loans. And there are a lot of fintechs that have been exploding and trying to reinvent the credit and do the pay now, buy later, things of that nature. They're also slowly precipitating and allowing and enabling people to go and essentially spend more than they should, in the mentality of like, oh, I just need that one win to cover all my losses, right? But also then, if you start looking at the actual statistics of helplines and people trying to understand how they can combat it, and you can tell me, Tahir, yes, the show was great, but people are not that desperate, right? Like, let people gamble. I'm seeing this paycheck that they're offering me. Let me just take it. Can I really make it that much worse? And this is where we need to come back to the point that people who end up in these situations frequently kind of like create this like down spiral. And from the perspective of the community right now, right? Like your potential audience who, if you're listening in English, you're based in the United States, you're likely American-based creator, and likely number one audience that you currently have is US-based, probably followed by a few other English-speaking countries. You need to understand the current situation in society and understand what's happening to those individuals who these gambling advertisements usually target. And also, really just millennials and Gen Zs at this point. Coming back to Gen Zs, they're not happy. There's a lot going on right now for them, right? Between the perspective of the fact that there is increased percentage of unemployment, jumping into the fact that as they do more and more research around this generation, trying to understand what's their mental state is right now, it's pretty dire and they are feeling unhappy, all the way to the point that there's this whole conversation about the U-shaped curve of happiness. They're really just statistically breaking all the prediction models and essentially showing that this upcoming generation, this young adults who are currently coming up, might be one of the unhappiest that we currently have because of the kind of situation that they're facing, right? From the perspective of ignore, or I guess maybe watch some of my videos in the past about the public markets, but you have to kind of like ignore the public markets no matter how green they are. Things are not going that well. People are not really hiring. It's like no hire, no fire, what they refer to it. Situation with companies essentially just trying to hold on and see where things are going to go. AI bubble essentially creating this illusion that, oh, things are going well, but in reality, people are really struggling right now to make ends meet. The kind of audience that you likely have and the reason why you're getting a potential proposal for the gambling brand deal is the fact that you're probably targeting that specific audience, the Gen Zs, the young millennials, essentially individuals who all of these gambling companies are trying to rope into the fold. You can go and say, yes, but look at all the sports channels, look at all the other places where they can see the ads. What difference does my channel make? You can approach it with this logic, but in reality, I strongly think as a creator, you should be thinking about what is the long-term impact on your audience from the work that you do. Because if you recall, I made this video maybe probably 6-9 months back by now about the whole idea of the value, right, that you're creating and generating with your viewer. And the whole idea, I don't need to pull up any visuals, you don't need necessarily to rewatch the entire video. The whole concept that I propose is that your relationship with your audience is like a piggy bank. And anytime you create any sort of value, and very likely every piece of content that you provide and they watch adds the value, maybe you're doing some other things, some other community engagement, it all populates and adds to that piggy bank. And you can extract value from the piggy bank by asking them to maybe subscribe to a membership site, to buy your physical product, buy a digital product, support your monitor, buy you coffee, like things of that nature. In my opinion, what you're really creating the situation is that you're overdrafting potentially that value with your audience, because if you end up being the final push right across that line, someone who they trust, whose opinion they value, they come to you and you're there promoting and saying, hey, go sign up to this gambling app, get whatever dollars for free and go gamble your life away. If that puts them on a path towards some negative outcome that we just discussed earlier, that entire outcome will be in part associated with you as a creator, because you essentially was the one to go and put it in front of them alongside everyone else, and they trust your opinion more than your regular media or regular host on whatever the legacy media channels that they're watching. They will take your word for it, and they'll trust and say like, hey, if this person who I've been following for years saying this is good, I should probably go follow. And you can prefix that. Nate, I think, recently did that. He took what he said was like the largest brand deal in his life for the gambling website and essentially prefixed and said like, don't gamble. But then he pulls up the talking points and essentially goes and promotes it, right? Like, this is not how it works, right? You can prefix and you can say whatever at the very beginning. Audience still trusts you. If you have younger individuals following your content, they still trust your opinion, and it's all kind of like kind of like a poke and a wink, so to speak, in terms of yeah, he has to say it probably for regulatory reasons, but he really enjoys it, he really likes it, she really likes it, I should go test it out, right? You have that responsibility to protect your audience in the sense of what kind of things are impacting them through your content that you provide. And if you really don't care, you can take that brand deal. But the problem is that you have that level of influence. That's why they're watching you. That's why you're being offered the deal. You're not going to be offered the brand deal if the company that's trying to pay you does not believe you have an influence on your audience. So I'm going to have to take this all into account. And there's plenty of things, right? Like a lot of these gambling companies, a lot of the influencers that I see that are taking these brand deals talk about how you can win, right? Like Drake is notorious for that, like posting his winnings with his like fake gambling, allegedly. Long story short, go research that. But a lot of gambling that celebrities do is actually done with the house's money, so to speak, right? But again, it's all allegations. There's plenty of content that covers that. But yes, they can keep talking about the winnings. The problem with that, these companies, right, and this is an interesting stat of all the sportsbook, all sponsoring pretty much the entire US sport right now, right? You have your NBA, your NFL, your NASCAR teams, MLB's here, right? Like, just take a look, even MLS, yeah. Look at the list, right? How many different teams and essentially companies they sponsoring, right? Then you from there take a look at the revenue growth, and essentially all you really need, like, to quickly understand the data, handle really means just the volume of bets. The gross revenue is what these companies are making, and the percentage is estimated just profit that they make off of the winnings themselves. So you have multiple sponsorships of all of those teams. You have billions of dollars, right? So it's crazy. Last year, almost $150 billion wages were placed, and betting companies revenue made 13.6 billion, right? And they're right now already over 9 billion with, like, I checked from the data perspective, the last like 4 months last year would make betting companies over a billion, right? So if the trend continues, they'll at least match it, if not supersede the prior year's record. So they're making billions of dollars. They're sponsoring all these teams. And my point is, you don't do that if the chances are not stacked in your favor, right? From the perspective of the betting odds, from the perspective of like how casinos in the past handled it. Like, again, you can go down the rabbit hole and go research that, but all of these companies, they do it because it's profitable, and it's profitable because it's always rigged in their favor, right? And again, rigged, I'm using this term not in the legal sense, so none of them try to claim disparagement. the odds are set up in a way that these companies can make money. If these companies cannot make money, they will not be making billions of dollars. They will not be spending all this money on all those sponsorships. That is why it's in no way, shape, or form, in my opinion, you can justify, outside of, again, paycheck, right? Like, I think ultimately it comes down to the morals of what is the money worth to you, right? As a creator, I get it. It's tough sometimes to come across brand deals. It's tough to come across that size of brand deals, right? Like, I've heard about the numbers that been thrown out there at some of the creators from the perspective of just like the volume of cash that they're offering. Like, it's hard to say no to those one in a lifetime opportunities as they may seem. But I think, to me, the importance of it, and I know I mostly talk about the business side of things, but I think ethics is still important, right? And from the ethics perspective, as I said, you're responsible for the kind of things you put in front of your viewer, right? And you have to be very thoughtful about the potential impact you're having, no matter if they're getting impacted elsewhere, right? Just because someone else is getting robbed by everyone doesn't mean that you should go rob them as well, right? Like, this is where the ethics come in. Doesn't mean you can go and just do the same thing and just wave it off by saying, hey, everyone else does it, right? For me, one of my favorite sayings, I guess, or philosophies that I really like to apply is that you kind of have to hold the line, right? Because the saying itself goes, it's like, it's easier to hold the line 100% of the time than 98% of the time. And the reason being, because when you hold the line only 98% of the time, 95% of the time becomes a thing, 80% times becomes a thing, 70%, 60%, and you slowly just erode your ability to hold that line. And what's next? Are you going to advertise some questionable medical treatments? Are you going to be advertising some complete like pump and dump schemes, financial pyramids, just because they're paying you money? Right? Like, this is the important consideration to make as a creator. And again, I don't usually preach ethics on a general scale. I focus on the business side of things, but it just like I keep seeing these betting advertisement. I keep seeing these stories about individuals just like negatively being affected. Like, I know an individual who like has six-figure dollars worth of betting volume every year, and it's just like crazy. It's, you can only tell the individual so much before you just end up saying like, hey, I'm just watching potentially a train wreck in the making, right? But like, again, grown as adult, not necessarily going to listen to me at that point. You have to be thoughtful about at least what you yourself promote and what you yourself, right? Again, being someone who holds the line on this ethics and at least doesn't overexpose, at least create some sort of like a safe haven where the brands that you expose to your viewers are actually something that's going to continue adding value to that, piggy bank, is the right way to do it, in my opinion. But you don't always have to listen to me. Listen to American consumers as well. I'm not the only one who realizes it, thank God. And it's, as you can see, it's relatively new article. I'm recording today on November 2nd, so it's about a month old. Like, the perception is dropping, right? You see increase in people's opinion about the fact that it's bad. You see a lot of things kind of like happening in the sense of like people realize how bad it is. It doesn't mean that things going to be actioned, in my opinion, immediately, because the problem is it makes so much money for all of these, right? It's like, again, you saw the list of all those teams, right? Like, they're making boatload of money in sponsorships from those companies. These companies make boatload of money. You saw the statistics right now that I pulled up. Like, they don't have an incentive to stop right now. So this is why it becomes more of an ethics conversation, right? Like, philosophically, do you support something that will harm individuals and you're going to be part of it and promote it just because it gives you the paycheck? And you probably already stopped watching this video if you're the kind of person. But if you're still watching, if you're still debating, if it's still something that you're trying to figure out, like, consider the impact that we spoke about earlier. Consider the fact that this is a for-profit organizations, that they're trying to make the money off of the individuals who they get in their net. And so should you be the one shepherding more fish, so to speak, in that net for them to squeeze more money from more individuals who will potentially attribute that negative impact to you because you were the trusted source and you were influencing enough to go and get them to do this and take this action. So that's probably as deep as it goes, in my opinion, from my perspective, right? It's just that question of like, what is money worth it to you, and what kind of relationship you want to have with your audience. I'm a strong believer that you need to respect your audience. You need to protect it in some cases and ensure it's your responsibility to only take on the brand deals that represent the values that you aspire to kind of like, bring to your audience and also you expect your audience to receive from you, right? There's certain exchange that's happening. You don't want to throw a monkey wrench in it, right? And because of this, I think, again, gambling ads is not something creators should be taking. In my opinion, should be heavily regulated. But again, I don't anticipate for those things to happen, especially in the current administration, because it's so money driven and these companies make a ton of money, right? So I don't expect any changes to happen in the next at least 2 to 3 years. So I'm really kind of like looking back at all the creators who are hopefully watching this video and deciding for themselves, I'm going to hold that line and I'm going to be the one to ensure I don't expose my audience to this no matter how much money being thrown at me, right? But again, that's as much as I can implore you to do without getting too rambling on this topic. Let me know in the comment section below what you think, if you think any flaws in my logic. And otherwise, next Saturday, we're going to come back to our regular, probably other business topics, creator economy topics, but this one really kind of like something that's been sitting in the back of my mind for a little while. So I had to go turn on the camera and rant about it for, a few minutes. So I'll see you next Saturday. Peace.